While sitting in the cold operating room, Pam Reynolds reported that during the operation she heard a sound like a D natural. That sound seemed to pull her out of her body and allowed her to float above the operating room and watch the doctors perform the operations. Reynolds claimed that during this time she felt more aware than normal, and her vision was more focused and clearer than normal. She reported seeing the surgical saw. She said she described it as an electric toothbrush, and this in fact is true. She said she could hear conversations between operating room staff, even though she had earphones in her ears. The earphones were making a loud clicking noise many times per second, and this is how the medical team was monitoring her brain function. At some point during the operation, she says she noticed a presence and she was pulled towards the light. She says she began to discern figures in the light, including her grandmother, an uncle, and other deceased relatives, and then also people unknown to her. According to Reynolds, the longer that she was there, the more she enjoyed it. But at some point, she was reminded that she had to go back. She says her uncle brought her back to her body, but she did not want to go, so he just pushed her in. And then the sensation was like jumping into a bath of ice water. So that's that opening story is about, there's a couple of stories here. Obviously, this episode's going to be about NDEs, something that's, very interesting. Anytime I'm scrolling and there's an NDE story, I don't swipe past that. I enjoy it. And so we're going to talk about that today. And this is one of them. This is Pam Reynolds, who, she's in for an operation. She is, by all medical rights, dead. She's deceased. Intentionally, she had to do this for the surgery she was having. And so this is one of what they claim the better documented cases of having a near-death experience.
That's a really cool story. I will say, I do have a couple of questions for it, but before we jump in, we probably should, just in case this is anybody's first episode, this is Legacy of Lies. I'm Gabe.
And I'm Pat.
So I don't know if anybody would pick this one to be their first episode, but probably shouldn't just roll with just the cold open. But that's a really interesting story. So kind of what we do here for anybody that's new is we talk about mysteries, different cool stuff. And this week, as Pat said, we're doing near-death experiences. So I really like that question. When she said that her uncle pulled her back in, was her uncle dead?
Yeah.
Like he was a spirit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
this is like she said, she met relatives, loved ones, or whatever, and her uncle was one of them. And when he told her it was time to go back, she said no. He pushed her.
It's like, no, you got
physical.
Shit to do.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Did she have any kids and stuff too? I guess I didn't catch that. She had family?
Yeah, she has a family.
Okay, gotcha.
I can't remember her age. I believe she was in her 40s. And I could be off on that. I think it was her 40s. And a couple, I guess generally all of these are most of the NDE stories that I've listened to. Either there's commonalities in all of them.
Yeah, it seems like they're always in their 40s. I've noticed that too. It's like late 30s, early 40s. It seems like a lot of people have that happen.
And I'm curious if anybody else has noticed this. With we're definitely in a different information age than when I was growing up or, when I was your age. And I was having this conversation with someone the other day about NDEs, were they, in the past, have they always been happening? Mm-hmm. Or is God kind of letting the veil lift and showing people?
That's really an interesting thought, and it's kind of like another thing I've noticed on that same topic is, how like with UFOs, 100 years ago, when people would see a UFO, it would present as like an airship, right? Like a big blimp or whatever, because that's what they had. And now it's like stealth aircraft, flying saucers or whatever. There's a part of me that wonders if those presentations change depending on the lived experiences of the people of that time. So like you hear near-death experiences from like hundreds of years ago, and it's like they're in like the fiery pits of hell, right?
Yep.
And now it seems like more often than not, people that have these, it's more along the lines of like they meet their loved ones, they're in like this shared liminal space, like they're sharing a consciousness, they can hear each other's thoughts, and like I feel like that's a lot more new age and spiritual
Yeah.
than like in the past when you read about people having NDEs long ago and they were either in heaven, like at the pearly gates, or they're in the pit of hell. Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
is one or the other. That you didn't hear a lot about people kind of going into this transcendental spiritual realm that I hear a lot of them
Yeah.
are like that now.
Yeah, I think, and maybe it is tailored to your belief system, or what you, I
Right.
don't know, it could be anything. Um, but yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think of, just go back to the 1800s, like, some cowboy was dying of cholera or whatever. Did he
got
have an
diphtheria.
NDE? Did they, were they
Probably.
happening then? And so a couple things. Either they've always happened, and they were so taboo they never got talked about, or how were they recorded back then? You're not gonna.
Yeah.
But with the internet and everything being basically available to everyone, I would tend to think they've always been happening, and now we can just communicate with anybody we want to.
Right. Well, I mean, you don't have to rely on the media anymore. There's a million shows like this where somebody like I've actually listened to podcasts where somebody had a near-death experience and then they start their own podcast and they talk about it because they're fascinated by it and they're like, oh, I want to talk to other people that have had this and compare notes or whatever. That didn't exist even 20 years ago.
Right.
The media landscape has changed so much now where if you're interested in something or fascinated by something, you can kind of, go your own way.
Yeah,
and,
you
and
can
figure out whatever you want to.
Yeah, you can literally get like a. This is probably insulting, maybe, I don't know, but you can get a college level education on anything you want because of the internet.
No, you
know
absolutely can. Yeah.
The next case that I'm going to talk about here when we're done, it's kind of like what you just talked about. It's this one is considered like the most legitimate, the most fact based, or there's evidence based, and it's Dr. Eben Alexander. And you've probably seen or heard of his videos, whether that name rings a bell or not. But,
yeah,
this is a neurosurgeon who, same thing, he's clinically dead, has this experience. And just like you said, it changed his life forever. He wrote books, he does podcasts. I mean, it changed his life, forever in how he, his belief system, how he approached everything. So, if had that happened, I don't know, 50, 70 years ago, you wouldn't have that option,
No, you'd tell your friends maybe.
Yeah, and they'd think you were crazy and you'd end up in a loony bin.
Yeah, the people in your town would think you're a psycho.
They'd
put you in the poor farm or wherever, wherever they put you. No, it's so NDEs. I know it's always been your fascination, right? And I think they're super cool. I actually just listened to a podcast that Zach and I listen to a lot. It's called Third Eye Drops. The dude's like a Gnostic spiritualist. He's really cool, fascinating stuff, right? But he actually just did, or it was an older episode. I just listened to it, but on near-death experiences, and kind of talking on that same topic of the veil between our world and whatever else is after is out there, and is really cool. I'm not as into it as you are. I don't know as much. I think it's super interesting, but I'm kind of just reacting to your stories and providing base level input. But I think it would be kind of cool to have me just kind of hear, and because I haven't heard a lot of these stories.
Yeah, I'm just gonna step away here for 1 second.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, I don't know what this. I wouldn't. Whoops, sorry. I wouldn't say I have like a deep fascination with NDEs. But there is a draw. Like I have a natural draw to it. Just like anything you get interested in.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of the, what you could learn from it, or it gives you, everybody's searching for the answers of the universe.
Yeah.
There's always that question of why or what or who or whatever, your questions are. And I think that is a way that, maybe it provides hope, for afterlife or whatever the case is. I listened to an NDE story. Actually, well, I'll play a little audio clip of it, but um, it sounded amazing. This guy's in this beautiful, lush field.
Yeah.
Children and dogs are playing. I
It's like
mean,
Agartha, man. It's
yeah, it's
beautiful.
amazing, right? And this feeling of overwhelming love,
Yeah.
you know. And I think maybe that's what it is for me. Um, you know, as any guy, you know, this might get a little political or whatever, but I think for the most part, you know, men in general probably are least likely to be shown unconditional love.
Men are largely ignored
Yeah.
in our society, for better or worse. I
Yep.
mean, and it's kind of just the way it's built in, I think,
Yep.
to the way our society operates. But, you know, the only time usually men get any real unconditional love, it's their spouse or like very close family.
Right.
Nobody gives a shit. Right?
Yeah.
You hear like somebody telling a story wherever, you know, at your local church or whatever, you know, and people will like act like they care, but every guy knows that they don't.
Right. Right. I mean, so I think, yeah, your immediate family, and not all spouses even, you know,
Mhm.
if you stop providing, you
Yeah.
might, you know,
It's conditional, absolutely,
yeah.
for a lot of, not everybody, but a lot of relationships. I mean, you can usually tell when you see them. It's
Yep.
if the guy stops putting up his end of the deal, the dude loses his job, falls on hard times, and then the divorce comes like 3 months later,
Right.
and you're like, man, this dude built a life for like 20 years, and all it took was one bad go.
That's right.
She's gone. It's really sad, actually.
So I think for me, it's maybe, and this is pretty deep, I guess, and I don't really mean it to be, but I think the appeal is the feeling of unconditional love is, you know, as a grown man, you know, I get hugs from my grandson, from my kids, my wife, and all that stuff's amazing. But to be vulnerable, like, so say, you know, God
Right.
or Jesus or whoever.
Vulnerable on like the ultimate level with like your
Yes.
deity or
Yep.
whatever, your creator, the universe, whatever.
Yeah, to have them hold you in their arms, like that seems unbelievably amazing,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit of the draw for me, you know, and also you know, the human nature of wanting to know everything.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely what it is for me too, is just the curiosity of like what is it. And I have noticed a lot of these stories you hear about NDEs, they have a lot of similarities to lucid dreaming.
Yeah,
Like the kind of, you know, whatever they say is like your alpha brain state where you can kind of train yourself to lucid dream, where like this one guy did this thing where he held a ball in his hand and he would slowly doze off to sleep. And then every time he would start to fall asleep, he'd drop the ball and it would wake him up. And he just did that over and over again until he like forced his body to be semi like cognizant during that alpha brain state. It almost seems like that's a similar thing with NDEs because you're not dead, or you know your soul isn't gone, right? You might be clinically dead.
Your meat suit's gone.
Yeah, or you don't have a heartbeat, but your brain is still ticking, right?
Yeah.
It seems like the things that happen to you are similar.
Yeah.
Not in every way, but
No, I agree. And the astral traveling
Yes.
or whatever, I think I listened to, again, I'm terrible with names, but I listened to a young female who, you know, she does that. What was that government project called?
which one?
Where they had remote viewing. That
Oh,
one.
yeah.
I can't think of the
It's
name
Project
of
Stargate, I believe.
it. Yeah, that sounds right.
There's a few, but that's the big one.
But she's a remote viewer. So I'm not sure if that's exactly the same as astral traveling, but you know, whatever. But
Most of them do astral travel. They're not necessarily the exact same, but
Yeah.
usually if you remote view, you can astral travel.
But so she was saying, you know, I think she was doing like some Q&A, and it reminded me, what you said reminded me of that, the guy with the ball and training himself.
Yeah.
And basically she said how she started it was through meditation. And she said, like, for her, it was being like, while you're in the meditative state, being aware of everything that's going on around you, but ignoring it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to imagine until you try to do it. Then you're like, oh yeah,
Right.
that's distracting as fuck.
Yeah. Well, are you into meditation?
Yeah.
I don't know if because I do it every night, at
Yeah.
least multiple times a day. And That's like when you're learning, when you're teaching yourself, that's the hardest thing to learn is to, uh, they say, people generically say like think of nothing or whatever, turn your brain off. But all it is recognizing stimuli and ignoring them.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do when you're first starting out. Like that's probably the most difficult thing for people when they learn. So I imagine it's the same concept, right? Just with also with your body.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm not doing, I didn't read lessons on how to meditate
Yeah.
or anything like that. But, I've heard things, but for me, it's every morning, pretty in the wee hours of the morning, and it's the same. And I start with praying, and then, and it's just me sitting in my comfortable chair with my eyes closed and not even speaking, and sometimes not even thinking, because, I believe you don't need to think those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Our Creator knows what we need and what we want.
Sure.
So it's really what I try to do is sit there at peace and connect to, the universe.
Right.
And that sounds a little bit hippie-ish, but
I mean, everybody has their own thing that works for them,
and
right?
that seems to be good for me. I mean, I like it. I look forward to that shit, man. Like I love that time in the morning when there's no people around.
Yeah. No, it's like being out in the stand when you're hunting.
Exactly.
Quiet. It's just like dawnbreak. You're just sitting in the woods alone, maybe with some squirrels, whatever. It's very peaceful.
Yeah.
It's nice to feel alone sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I will shout out, we're not sponsored by these guys at all or anything like that, but Medito is the app that I used when I taught myself how, and it's free and it's awesome. So if anybody that's listening is looking to try to learn how to meditate and they want a little help, I mean, there's a million YouTube videos out there too, obviously, but this is an app you can download. It's totally free. You can pay for it if you want like certain different lessons and stuff, but all the basic stuff is free, and you can go through like 30 lessons and it'll teach you the very basics all the way up to like transcendental stuff. So.
I was just imagining, my brain was wandering off when you were talking about the subscription, and all I could think about was commercials, and you're sitting here following along in the app and you're like getting into this meditative state, and then a commercial comes on and fucking pulls you out of it.
Gotta get the premium to not have the fucking ads.
Come down to O'Reilly's.
Dude, it's
so just
funny.
freak you out. I'm curious about that app though. I might have to check that out.
It's on Apple and Android.
Yeah. What does it do for you? Does it talk through things?
So when I first started out, right now I don't need anything to be in the background, any guided anything. When I first started out, I needed guidance.
Oh, gotcha.
I needed like the background noise, whatever, and it'll kind of tell you like, hey, breathe deep. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, and then hold it or whatever. There's a million different strategies people use, but it kind of just taught you the basics of like breathing first, how to quiet your mind, how to ignore outside stimulus, and it really does a good job of building on each previous lesson. So the first one is basically just like breathing.
Yeah.
And and it just goes up and up from there, and that was probably 6 or 7 years ago that I downloaded that app.
What's your routine?
So for me, what I do, we're pretty far off of NDEs now.
That's all right. Well, I mean, okay. But it's kind of, you're getting into that mindset,
It is similar. No, so what I do, usually I do it right before bed, because in the past, I always had a really hard time falling asleep, especially working like swing shift and, just I'm a late night person as it is. So for me, falling asleep when I need to is difficult. So I will sometimes I'll do it in the recliner, but other times I'll do it in bed. I'll get really comfortable. I'll make sure I have everything I need. I don't have to get up for anything, so I'll make sure I'm showered. I have a drink if I need one, whatever. I'll sit there, and I try to like sit up in bed, like not fully lay down, but you can do it that way too. And then I usually will start off with just matching my breathing. So I'll do for me, I do 10 seconds in, 10 seconds out, and then hold the out for 10 seconds. And I just repeat that for like 2 or 3 minutes. And once you get good at it, you can kind of start to feel your brain changing, like your brain waves or whatever. You just feel your body physically calm down. And then I focus really hard for the first few minutes on not letting my mind wander. So the way that they teach you is, you'll have intrusive thoughts, right? You'll be like, oh, my knee hurts or whatever, my foot itches. You'll recognize that you feel that thing and not engage with it, so you don't get stuck on it. You don't
Right.
get stuck on like, oh, I need to itch my leg, whatever. You just be like, okay, my leg itches, that's okay, moving on. Like, and that's for people that are just starting out, that is really hard to learn. It sounds really simple, as most difficult things do,
Right.
and for me that was tricky because my mind likes to wander,
Have you
especially when I lay down.
have you had any unusual experiences while in meditation?
Yes, I have.
You want to talk about them first of all, or no?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
care. I haven't had anything where I like travel to Agartha or anything crazy cool
Yeah.
like that, but I've definitely multiple times had where there's a word for it, but I can't remember what it's called, where you get that vibrational feeling
Oh yeah.
like in your chest, or people will say it's like your third eye opening or whatever. I don't know what it is, but it's like an overwhelming sense of calm, and you can feel your body vibrating.
Yep.
And that I can do that pretty much every time I meditate
Yeah.
if I focus on it long enough. The only issue for me is a lot of times I fall asleep before I get to that point. If I'm really tired, if I was working nights or whatever,
Yeah.
when I start meditating, a lot of people call it clicking out, and that happens to me a lot. And then I'll have really really vivid dreams.
So, as you start vibrating, what's next
So I
for
think
you, anyways?
so for me, I think if I wanted to, that's where I could focus that and leave my body.
Mhm.
I don't really know if I'm comfortable enough to do that yet.
So that I'll tell you. So I stumble. You a couple episodes you kind of led, kind of led into this. So
Mhm.
I have done that, and I didn't practice. I think I just kind of stumbled upon something, and the more I looked into what was happening, the more I realized like the situation was like perfect for me,
Yeah.
because I would get up in the middle of the night, and a lot of times they say like the best time to do this is when you're trying to go back to sleep at like that
Yeah.
2 or 3 in the morning.
Well, you're basically like naturally dropping the ball, like that guy was doing. Your sleep, wake,
Yep.
and that's just happening to you already. So it's perfect.
So what I did, and the first few times it happened, I was too scared to do anything about it. But just like you were talking about, I always notice that my nose starts vibrating. And then, as you just imagine it, it happens and it washes over your body. And then, basically, what I would do is imagine myself falling through wherever I'm laying down.
Like falling through the bed or
Falling
the chair
through,
or whatever.
yeah.
Okay.
And so, I've had a couple of times where I have fallen through, and I don't know exactly. I would say my consciousness was outside of my body for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I experimented a little bit, but I definitely got scared a couple of times.
Well, and the interesting thing relating this to NDEs is they're described a lot of times almost exactly the same way, where
Mhm.
like your consciousness either floats out or up, and you can kind of see yourself. It makes me wonder if they're the same final function from a different process.
Right.
Right. Like is that just something that humans naturally do when they're either in a deep meditative state or are near death?
Yeah.
Like it almost, to me, the fact that it happens both ways kind of proves that there's something to it, because if it was like made up in your head, I don't think it would happen both times.
Well, and I guess what was kind of, for me in my experience, this happened quite a few years ago, and I hadn't heard of this type of stuff before.
Right. Yeah. You weren't like super into this stuff. I
No.
can attest to that.
Yeah.
For sure.
But then once I like had the experience, I kind of, okay, I know how I got there before, and I could do it again and again.
Yeah.
So, but then what was really cool, or at least kind of like, it makes you realize you're not a spook or you're not crazy, is I started hearing about people, how they intentionally did that stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, damn, I tap into something by accident,
So I know you're also into lucid dreaming. Do you enter that state in a similar way for you, or is that a totally different kind of?
No, I don't think so. So, well,
kind of similar.
Kind of. But like, my consciousness in those two things, not the same for me.
Hold on 1 sec.
Yeah.
My throat's getting dry. Sorry.
When I've had that happen, my understanding, like my thought process, like myself, is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Lucid dreaming, it's just a different feeling. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how to put words to that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. There's a few guys I know outside of the family, just friends of mine that they're into lucid dreaming too, and it's kind of they were describing it similarly, where it's not like necessarily that buzz that you get with like a meditation or
Hmm.
entering that state. It's more of a surreal feeling, like surrealism
Yeah.
almost. It's like you're in a dream, but it's like a mix between a dream and real life.
Well, and
I guess
you don't, and I mean, like, for me, it doesn't happen all the time, but when I enter that type of, dream state, I know it's a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you can start having fun if you want to and, experimenting.
Yeah.
But for me, almost always when I lucid dream, I think it obviously has to do with like the REM cycles and all that.
Yeah.
I have a limited amount of time because I'm about to wake up.
Yeah.
That's almost always how it happens.
You ever tried to talk to anybody and call people out on it? I've heard that that's not smart.
Yeah, no,
That's what everybody says.
So no, I haven't, but I'll tell you, every time that I realize I'm in a dream,
It breaks apart?
no,
or-
it's because I'm trying to make a phone call, and I look at my phone and it makes no sense,
Interesting.
and I'm like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
dreaming again.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's
Numbers, whatever. I don't.
Yeah, it
for
doesn't
me, anyways,
translate.
doesn't make sense.
I have had a similar experience. It was just a regular dream, but I've had very similar things happen where it'll be definitely phones have done it to me before too, or the computer, where I'll be in my dream, because I use computers so much throughout my day. Like in my dream, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go look something up or whatever, and I'll go and like the computer just it's not right.
Yeah.
Like the keyboard's not right. Like you can just tell, and you're like, what the fuck? And then you're like, oh yeah, I'm dreaming. And then for me, as soon as I realize that, my dream breaks apart
Vanishes.
instantly. Like
Yeah.
I just wake up. And I know, like going on what I was saying before, that there's lore for anybody that doesn't know, is that if you are lucid dreaming and you confront somebody in your dream and say, hey, this is a dream, you're not real, whatever, they will attack you or like get violent.
I've heard very similar, but I heard what you're supposed to do, or what the challenge is you go up and you ask somebody what time it is, and that like sets them off.
Yeah, that I've heard that one too.
Yeah.
It's freaky.
Yeah, dreams are crazy. Before I want to move on to this next story, but what kind of puzzles my mind, or at least it's very interesting to me about dreaming, is I dream most every night.
Yeah.
And when you're in a dream and everything feels extremely familiar, even strangers, all right, so say I was dreaming and you were in the dream.
Yep.
You might not look like you, but I
Yeah.
know it's you.
I know
right?
exactly what you're talking about.
But have you ever had, because I've had this a lot, where it's a stranger, but I feel like
You know them.
I know them.
Yes. I have
And
had
then
that
you wake
happen.
up and you're like, that's like, I was so confident in my dream
Yes.
about my comfortability in that location with those people.
Dreams are freaky. I have also had, and in a similar vein, dreams where throughout my life, the dream is like a season of a television show, and randomly I'll jump back in to a spot that I haven't dreamt about in 10 years, but it feels like you're living a whole other life in this specific dream. And I've got multiple of them, like different, sets, different locations, different people, right? But when you go back there, it's like almost like,
Coming home.
yeah, or right, or your consciousness is like stored in separate little boxes, right? Like I have memories when I'm in a specific dream set from that dream set, and then when I wake up, I can't remember it. And
Yeah,
then
I know exactly what you're talking
it's
about.
very, very strange. And I also, like you said, there's people in my dreams where like I definitely don't know them in real life. Like I don't know who they are, right? And they're not like an amalgamation of different people, like some people say. It's just a random person. But in that dream world, I know them.
Right.
Like we're close, we're like very close. We're good friends or whatever. It's very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack on that, I mean, and it's super interesting to me. But it's also equally maybe frustrating sometimes when you wake up.
Yeah. You just want to know, you don't want to know what it is. Do you think that it is something? I just heard a guy talking about it the other day, how he thinks that we're living multiple different lives in multiple different realities at the same time. And when you dream in one reality, is you like re-inhabiting the body in that reality.
Yeah, so I've definitely gone down that path, and I think that's possible. There's so much that we just never like scientifically know. So I've thought that. I've also thought like the whole we are all connected, and so I'm experiencing the world through somebody else's eyes.
Right, like is that somebody that's currently alive?
Yeah, I don't know. But that's
Yeah.
where the whole time is an illusion thing, I think, could maybe come into play. Like it's everything's happening all at once type of thing. And so I'm experiencing something and time is just irrelevant.
Right. Well, I just saw this the other day, and every time I see it, it freaks me out a little bit. But so if there was somebody who was like, if there was an alien on a planet, like, hundreds of thousands, millions of light years away, the light they would be seeing now would be the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And they would be seeing people, if they had a good enough telescope, walking around on Earth in Roman times.
That's crazy.
But they're gone. They're long gone. But to them, they're still alive. So like their energy in theory is still alive. Like the light that, shows these people is still out there traveling. It's fascinating. It always blows my mind whenever I hear that, because logically it makes sense, right? Like it takes a long time for light to go that far. It's a huge distance, but like that was for us was thousands of years ago. It's gone.
I know. That's crazy. I mean, that makes my mind wander into UFOs and,
right.
Maybe we're seeing something from the distant past or the distant future. Who knows?
Right.
But
well, it's like what, when we see like a planet or like a star explode or a planet, that happened like thousands of years ago.
That's crazy.
It just blows my mind. Like nothing happens in real time.
Yeah.
In the sky, unless you're really close to something. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Very weird to think about. And I don't think most people, especially in modern day and age, really spend any time thinking about the sky or the stars. Because like back in the day, when there was no electronics, no computers, no microphones, whatever, that's what people did for fun. They sat in their yard or their little teepee hut and they looked up at the sky and they like, what is that? They talked about it. All these ancient cultures had so much knowledge built up from millennia of studying the sky, and they had perfect view of it because there's no light pollution.
Right.
So like the stuff like the Mayans were able to do, or even like the mound builders in America, they had very, very well mapped star diagrams, and they knew exactly when things were going to happen.
That's where I think that if you look back at like how the amount of knowledge that they had and how precise they were with it, I tend to think that that civilization was much more advanced than we give them credit for.
Right. Or the one before them was,
and
it was that information was handed down to them,
absolutely,
post flood or whatever. There's a million things that
until the next pole shift, and then we start over again.
The pole shift thing is weird to me, man, because I understand it in concept. I'm just curious, so I'll ask you, how is that supposed to like blow the world up? Because it's just magnetism, right?
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't, in theory, like light the world on fire.
I honestly don't know. I mean, I've heard a lot of the rumor. I have heard nothing like scientifically as to what would happen. I don't know. I'm sure that the big thing would be it's the world or the Earth would spin, and so now maybe you have the polar ice caps at the equator, and so then you have melting and flooding and volcanoes. I'm imagining. I don't know. I've never really heard.
Yeah, I'm just scientifically, I'm trying to think, like, because like magnetic north is shifting all the time, right?
Right.
Like most people know that, like it's like 7 degrees off from where it was, whatever, 1,000 years ago, what have you. You're supposed to reset your compass every now and then because of the drift, and you don't see any major ramifications from that.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, is there a point where it does cause that, or is that a lot of that just all like made up nonsense?
Yeah. I don't know. I've never really looked too much into like the pole shift thing. I mean,
I haven't either.
I've recently been hearing a lot about it, and yeah, I don't know. It's probably something to look into, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're gonna do an episode on it at some point.
Yeah.
But if you want to roll with your second story, I know you had more you wanted to cover, so.
All right. So Dr. I believe I'm saying it right, E-B-E-N.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
even. Yeah.
Dr. Eben Alexander, he's a former Harvard academic neurosurgeon. He's experienced profound near-death experience. This happened in 2008. So he was in a week-long coma caused by severe E. coli bacterial meningitis. Meningoencephalitis.
Ooh, so some kind of brain
Yeah.
swelling.
Craziness.
Yeah.
So, so despite a shut down neocortex, he reported vivid, transcendent journeys through spiritual realms, detailing encounters with a loving creator, guardian angels, and interconnected consciousness. So I'm just going to go down a few of his experience. So he described visiting a vibrant, ultra-real, and spiritual world. Just pausing real quick. I love how when everybody describes the realm they're in, that it's more real than what we're doing now. Like
I've heard
like
people
the
say that.
flowers communicate with you and stuff. That's
Right.
pretty cool.
Yeah, like everything is a way. Like the rocks have
They
a soul.
show you
Like,
love. Yeah.
Right. Like everything is all connected and thinking together.
Yeah. So yeah, he described a vibrant, ultra-real, and spiritual world often referred to as the core, where he felt unconditional love and saw all of the four-dimensional space-time collapse into a single point. So for medical context, a 2018 case report confirmed his brain was functionally incapable of producing such memories during the infection, making his full recovery and detailed recollection medically unprecedented. So that's according to reports in the Journal of Nervous and Mental Diseases. So this guy went on, like I told you, it changed his life. He went on to write Proof of Heaven. So this is a book. It's a detailed journey. Went on to become a bestseller. So the title is, for anybody who wants to read it, Proof of Heaven, A Neurosurgeon's Near-Death Experience and the Afterlife. So it challenged his previous materialistic view that consciousness is created solely by the brain. So there's a lot of obviously scientific debate and criticism. His account's been met with skepticism from many scientists, including Sam Harris and Oliver Sacks, who suggested his experience could be explained by brain activity during the coma's onset or recovery rather than a supernatural event. And then kind of in the aftermath, Dr. Alexander has shifted his focus to studying the mind-body connection, arguing that consciousness exists independently of the brain, and that has rolled into another one of his books, Living in a Mindful Universe. So I'm going to cut to a video here. This is just a quick 10, 15 second clip. Yeah.
Cool.
And it's just a short, but it's him describing what he sees.
Just a brilliant, beautiful, lush world, this meadow, thousands of beings dancing in the meadow, lots of joy and merriment, and dogs playing, jumping, and kids playing, and just an incredible festivity. And it was being fueled because up above were these swooping orbs of angelic choirs leaving sparkling golden trails against this blue-black velvety sky. And they were emanating these chants and anthems and hymns that would just thunder through my awareness. The best thing about it was I wasn't alone on the butterfly wing. This beautiful young woman, and those who've read the book Proof of Heaven realize how crucial she was much later when I learned her identity 4 months after my coma. We don't have time to go into all that, but the reality is she gave me a beautiful message that I think was the ultimate message I was to bring back to this world for each and every one of us. Just a brilliant, beautiful,
So unfortunately, the video cuts off and it doesn't have the message. So
I assume that's like the lady in white or whatever.
No. So a couple of things. So the first thing that it doesn't get answered in that video is who was this woman that was important. It was his sister who died. I don't know if it was at birth or very young, who he never knew. 4 months later, he sees a picture. He's like, whoa, who's that? That's your sister. So guardian angel type of vibe putting off.
So when did his sister die?
When she was an infant.
Oh, young. Okay.
Yeah. So he never knew her.
Gotcha.
And then when he saw a photo, he asked his mother, I believe, and that's what she said. And he recognized her from that experience.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the message that she gave him was a few things. Unconditional love. She emphasized that the love conveyed was purer than any form of love on this earth and it represented a profound sense of oneness and belonging. Reassurance of care. She guaranteed that he would always be taken care of here on earth or in the afterlife. Let's see. And then the last message, no judgment. Nothing you can do. This one kind of is interesting. Nothing you can do on earth or there is wrong. Nothing you do is wrong.
Interesting.
That one, and I think that like what he's trying to say is, if you're doing something that you on earth would consider a sin, you're not being judged for it, essentially.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just a learning experience, maybe.
Yeah, I've heard a lot more in that realm lately where people that have near-death experiences, a really common factor that a lot of them go through is they'll have a life review.
Yeah.
Right? And I was listening to this one guy this past week, and he had an NDE, and his, it felt like it was years, right? But it probably only took like 5 minutes. His time is weird in those situations, and he basically lived his life, but it was through the eyes of the people that he was affecting, and it forced him to see how his decisions and actions affected other people. And I often wonder when, whether it's the Bible or any other religious text, when they say you'll be judged, is that what they're referring to? Is it referring to you're going to live this again and see the error of your ways, and maybe if you believe in reincarnation, maybe we keep getting reincarnated until we stop fucking up?
I don't know.
Like, do we keep reliving these lives as through a different perspective time and time again until we start being better?
It's funny because and this is in line with that. I remember reading some article, and the author gave a challenge to everybody, and the challenge I didn't make because my brain doesn't work that way. But he said, if you could take 30 days and everywhere you go, everything you do, try to view it from space level.
Sure.
So rather than looking through your eyes, it's really just being aware of your surroundings.
Right.
And the first time that I did that, I went down to the grocery store, and I can be a rather impatient person.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you get in line and you're like, come on, hurry up, dick, whatever.
Right.
And I started doing that. I'm like, oh man, this is how you should probably live life.
Yeah.
You should always be like that. Like everybody else has their own bullshit going on. And here I am impatient because, whatever, they're
the
going slower.
self-checkout's closed.
Yeah.
Nah, dude, it's really easy to get sucked into like tunnel vision on your own shit, even at the detriment of like your close family.
Yeah.
I've tried really hard not to live my life that way, but it doesn't matter how hard you try, you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like, I just think when you realize you're doing it, the best thing is to try to refocus on just being like, calm, patient, forgiving. You're always gonna make mistakes though.
Yeah, that's a tough one though, because you have ego,
Right.
We all have this ego, and it's just hard to overcome that, I think. When you have these, whatever you consider Jesus, some people think he was enlightened, or,
Sure.
Others think he's our savior. That's my belief. Or, he was God in human form.
Right.
But, there's other people that, they considered enlightened. And I think those are probably people who've kind of, they're still not perfect, but they've gotten
mastered
really
that.
good at that.
Yeah, I agree. They always have that same common thread of they're very calm, patient, forgiving, understanding. Like, that's why the message that that lady's sister gave him, it's really simple, right? Like, like unconditional love, understanding, you're taken care of, all that stuff. It's really basic level stuff, but when you try to practice it, it's really hard. There's nothing harder than unconditional love. Like, somebody that you're close to in your life, or a family member, a friend, wrongs you, it's really hard not to get bitter about that
and take it personal,
right? And it's almost never personal.
Right.
That's the hard part about life, is like everybody else is living theirs too, and they all have their own issues, their own bullshit. Like, people are gonna make mistakes. Doesn't mean you should be a doormat by any means. Like stand up for yourself. But.
I was giving, I don't remember if it was you or your brother, but giving some probably at the time unsolicited advice, but I think it was good advice. But yeah, I think it was your brother, and he was going through something, and I said, all these people around, like, no one's thinking of you. Like,
yeah.
When you get wrapped up and you get anxiety, you think the
It's
whole
very good
world's
advice.
thinking about you,
Yeah.
like they're all judging. And it's like, honestly, very few people are, the world's not against you.
Yep.
And I think quite the opposite. The world is for you. So.
Yeah, man. That's really, really good advice to give, especially to a teenager.
Right.
Because that's a teenager's number one fear is like, oh, I'm going to trip and fall in public and people are going to laugh at me or whatever.
Yeah.
Insert a million different stupid scenarios that teenagers make up in their mind about why they're going to be a joke. But people don't care about you. And that's what I told him something similar years ago when he was in college. But that's the advice I always give to people is I was like, for better or worse, people don't give a shit about you, man.
Yeah.
And that's good and bad. People aren't going to go out of their way to help you a lot of the time, but nobody is focusing on your life and picking apart everything you do. They're focusing on their own life.
Yeah.
That's why everybody has so much anxiety all the time, because everybody is doing the same thing that you're doing. They're all worried about what everybody else thinks about
Yeah.
them, and nobody's actually like judging other people actively. I mean, they will in certain situations, but it's not like if you make one mistake, everybody's going to laser focus on that and rip you apart.
Right. And but some of that is, well, especially maybe for different generations, I don't know. But like when I was growing up, if you had a kid in class in 4th grade who shit his pants, he had a nickname for the rest of his fucking life.
Yeah.
Or at least while he was in school.
Right.
And that's wrong. And that's messed up because we all shit our pants at some point, when we were young.
You're not an adult until you shit your pants.
But but yeah, kids can be mean, man, like in school. And
kids are real middle schoolers, dude. I think that's the worst. Like that 5th, 6th grade to like 9th grade, man. People can be brutal.
And it's all deflection too.
That's when people are hitting puberty. They're self-conscious. Hormones are going crazy. You're trying to grow up and become an adult. It's a really transitory time. And people do not handle that well.
Right.
Just in general. So yeah, you're right. It's all deflection. It's all projection.
Yeah, they lash out like if they want to get the first kill, so nobody gets them.
Yep. Everybody's worried about someone else making fun of them, and they know that if they can make fun of somebody else first or whatever, then the crowd's on their side, so to speak.
And it is tough if you're a kid that's on the receiving end of that. Like it definitely is going to set the tone. Right. How you respond is super important, obviously. But.
For sure. I think it's hard coming from where that was not really my experience, and I don't think it was for you either, but I know people in my life that was their experience. Like they had a really hard time in school. So it's hard to like speak on that coming from perspective where I didn't deal with a ton of that. But when it did happen, it sucked.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, give somebody good advice on that other than to just ignore it and be the best you can be. But
yeah, I mean, same situation. If you have at that time a girl break up with you or something like that, that type of rejection or feeling different, that stuff has a lasting effect.
What do you think? This is a little bit back on topic, I guess, but what do you think consciousness is? Because I agree, I don't think consciousness resides in the brain. I've never thought that it did. So is consciousness, like in my opinion, I'll just tell you kind of what I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's since, we are all connected, whether you're a Christian or a Jainist or a Buddha, like pretty much every major religion believes that we're all connected, right? So I tend to believe that consciousness is all, we're all split apart from one, like the universe or God or whatever you want to call it. We're all like little shards of that got split apart and divided, and that I believe it's immortal, like the immortal soul. It can't die. Like when I heard really good description for it the other day. Somebody said that your brain is not conscious. Consciousness is your brain.
Right.
So like your consciousness, it will always be there. Your consciousness currently just inhabits a brain, right? But when your body is gone, it will move on either back to its natural state, which is, wherever that is, or another body, something else.
So that's how I think. And especially over the last probably, 18 months. So that's how I've been trying to get through the world is, for example, I was just driving, down to the hardware store the other day, and I saw somebody on the road that, when I was younger, I maybe would have judged,
Yeah.
right, for their appearance. But I tried to view them as a soul, as like,
Right.
or whatever you want to call it, consciousness of soul.
Yeah.
That just happens to be the meat suit that they're wearing right now. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And maybe they didn't have the best draw cards.
Right. And but it has, this goes back to old, beauty comes from within, and that stuff is absolutely true. Obviously, you can, have a very handsome, good-looking person, and they're just a complete douchebag.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how to put that into words as far as what I think consciousness is, but I agree it's not anything physically here.
Mm-hmm.
Not physically. I think that my consciousness, or part of it, exists here right now.
Yep.
Talking to you, but I also believe it exists somewhere else.
Yeah.
At the same time.
I agree with that. And I think the way that I think about it is, so like your consciousness, when you're in your base level, like just consciousness state, like after you die or whatever, if you're a reincarnation person, before you're reincarnated, whatever, before you go to heaven, and you're just in that base level state, you would basically know everything. You know all the secrets of the universe, whatever. You would be one with the creator.
Yeah.
But I think when we're here, when we're in a body, I think about the brain actually as like a filter, like a limiting factor.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're running a program, and the way that the brain is set up, it is forcing you to experience consciousness from a very specific set of values.
Very limited.
Yeah. And it's I think that goes in with the trying to teach you lessons thing. Because if you know everything and you're all loving, whatever, it's really hard to learn through hardship. It's really hard to learn through the process of not knowing something and having to work for it. But if you artificially limit that and you make it, you turn the difficulty up on the game, so to speak, it's a lot better to, learn things and lessons, and learn how to treat people and why you should do the things you do.
Yeah, maybe that's why like NDEs, afterlife, all that stuff is very interesting to me, because if I drop dead right now and I return to the source, if I return to God and I know everything, why do I have to go back and learn something if I know everything? Right. You know what I mean? So that part's a little confusing to me.
You're drinking from the river of forgetfulness.
Yeah.
You heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that has always made the most sense to me, that we are here for a reason, and the reason is to learn.
Yeah.
And that learn how to treat people better, how to treat our fellow, souls better, how to live your life better. And I think the point of consciousness is to be conscious, is to exist, is to, go out and experience things. Because say you're God, right? And you want to, maximize, your sensory, like your sense seeking, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to figure out, you supposedly you already know everything, but you're trying to go full experience. The best way to do that would be to split yourself off into trillions of different things, and then simultaneously run them through a simulation of life in literally every possible set of variables.
Yeah.
Right. Like me and you and the person down the street that's a drug addict, and the person, up
the
the way that's a
draconians and the little grays.
Well, that's the thing, is that, if we are all one, then we're one with them too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a whole different topic, but that's okay. I mean, yeah, I remember when I first started having some of these discussions with people, whatever, a long time ago. And then, their argument would be, in relation to us being created by God. Well, what about aliens then? Well, I mean, he could create other shit too.
Right.
Yeah,
it's not like he's artificially limited to only humans and dogs and cats. Like,
right.
he could do other stuff.
And, the word he might not, I mean, that's just how I think of it, obviously, but.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that God has a sex.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you could say he or she or just God. Is probably the most accurate.
Yeah.
Like,
but yeah, I don't, I don't think if you have this all-powerful, created everything energy, I don't think their talents were limited just on Earth.
Oh,
They're
right.
probably everywhere in the galaxy and beyond.
Do you think we are like artificially limited from leaving our immediate area, like in the universe, though? I've thought about that a lot.
What do you mean by artificially?
Well, so we're really fortunate on Earth that we have gravity that's not really, really high, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's very financially difficult and physically difficult to leave our atmosphere, but we can. We're scientifically advanced enough where we can leave and go out, but we're limited by the speed of light, that it's very unlikely we would ever be able to travel to a different world with life on it, because it's so far away. But there's a lot of worlds where there may be people just like us, but even more advanced, like millions and millions of years more advanced than us, but their gravity is so strong that it's like basically impossible to leave, or to do it for not trillions of dollars or whatever currency they use.
So maybe. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on that, so I don't really have a belief, but I definitely think distance has no bearing on us or them visiting each other. I think there's definitely energy sources, or at least there's keys to the energy source that we just don't know about, know.
Well, that's like the astral travel thing,
right?
Right?
Or a wormhole, or whatever, the whole Bermuda Triangle, whatever you want to call it, what was that flight, MH317?
MH370.
370, with the three little orbs and bloop, it's gone.
That was a crazy video.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are being 100 million light years away, there's probably energy source where that isn't a limiting factor.
Right. And which would basically mean that the speed of light isn't a hard and fast rule.
Right.
Essentially. You can travel, like through space-time, a warp in space-time or a wormhole or whatever. I tend to agree. I almost think that maybe there is that physical limitation in place to make it really hard to physically travel somewhere.
Yeah.
To maybe push us in the direction of looking within.
Yep, I think so.
Like, if we know it's going to be nearly impossible to get there with a rocket, maybe we can do it like astral traveling or remote viewing. Or you hear stories about the really good remote viewers, like Pat Price and those guys that are going to the moon a million years ago or whatever, supposedly. So I do wonder if the universe is set up in such a way that it forces us to look at things like that. Because if we could just easily zip around, would people ever look within?
I think how you said that, I do think that there's limits put on probably every planet for a reason.
Right.
And it's probably so when we come here, if we're incarnated on Earth, we're not immediately hitting the A train and going back, or whatever.
Exactly.
You're here and you're going to live life and you're going to learn your lessons.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to what we were just talking about having a set of variables that if you're here in this specific body in this time, you're here to learn a specific lesson or a set of lessons. And I think that there's those parameters set on it for a reason. And I think maybe if there's life on a different planet a billion light years away, they probably have a totally different set of rules, so to speak, that their civilization exists by, and maybe your consciousness will be there next time, and a whole different worldview and everything, and none of the problems you have here, and all new ones.
So if just thinking here, you've experienced life for 30 years now.
Yeah.
And you had difficult times and all that stuff. And I don't know if this is a thought in a 30-year-old brain yet, but you start thinking about, I don't know, and I'm not like criticizing you for being young at all. I'm just saying, I don't know if this is, at some point, you start thinking about heaven, and you think, oh, I get there, and you spend X amount of time, which is irrelevant, right? I mean, it's probably no time. But the idea of going back to Earth sounds terrible to me.
I agree.
Terrible. And that comes off saying or sounding like I don't love my life. I love everything about it, but we're talking about heaven,
Yeah.
That'd be like going to the football game and leaving at halftime and not being able to go back,
I think I know exactly what you mean, but I think about it for a different reason. Like, I really love my life here, And I almost want, when it's done, there to be like a level of finality to it. I don't want to come back and start all over again.
Yes.
You know, that's freaky.
So much work, man.
Yeah, so much work, so much experience you have to live through again. And I mean, oh God, it just sounds brutal, doesn't
I know.
it?
Yeah.
Like,
That's what I think about a lot is like, you know, just for example, like I look at the relationship that I've had the longest would be with my parents, you
Right.
know, or my sister.
yeah,
And, you know, you look at the ups and downs where there's times where we argued or didn't see eye to eye. But we all have really good relationships now.
yeah,
But there were difficult times where like you didn't see eye to eye. And as a kid, you're like angry at your parents because they
Right.
put rules in place, even though they were good for you at the time. There was angst and all that crap, you know?
right.
And so, yeah, all that struggle to get, you know, to develop a really strong, solid relationship is a lot of work.
Well, you learn a lot throughout life. Like even in 30 years, you know, getting towards more middle age, like God, you're stacking 30 years of experiences and learning. That is a lot.
Yeah.
And then to, think about coming back and doing it for 90 more or whatever, it's just brutal. And when you build a life, like you start a family, you've lived your experiences, you got a good career, whatever. And like that's what I mean when I say I kind of almost wish there was like a level of finality to it where like you go through it,
You get a certificate.
yeah, you complete
Yep.
the game, you get your little life degree, and then you go to heaven, and then whatever, or where Agartha, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
People call it different things, but yeah, I have thought about that actually, and it's an interesting thing to think about because none of us know. I mean, that's the common thread. None of us know.
I that's why I know that you and I had this conversation because of like the way that the condition that the world's in right now, just like politically, it's a pretty charged environment out there.
Yeah,
But I still,
as it ever was.
yeah. I still think that we are probably fortunate, and I think that we're living in the most exciting times. Just potentially from,
Yeah.
if to not sound like a quack or a crazy, but if ever things were lining up to see like the book of Revelation to come,
Sure.
which sounds terrible, right?
Mhm.
That could be in this lifetime, that could be
Yeah.
us, this generation. So, I wouldn't want to be alive during any other time.
Yeah, it is cool. My thought on that, I agree with you. I will also say though that every single person that's ever lived at the peak of human technology and civilization.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
But not when Jesus came back.
right.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting at is like
Yeah.
getting to where there's a bow put on top and everything's done.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We have to do an episode on Revelations.
Yeah.
That would be a cool one. To
Oh,
do,
yeah,
just to even talk about it from a theoretical, if this happened tomorrow
Right?
standpoint. It's pretty fascinating.
Maybe a
but-
fun topic.
that is a weird thing that I think about sometimes is like you think about people, because we compare ourselves to 200 years ago, 100
Mhm.
years ago, whatever. And we're like, oh man, they didn't have cell phones, whatever, But like people that were alive, the Industrial Revolution, like the end of the 1800s, they had fucking electric light. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe these people never had light. They had candles, like this progress is not linear. So
Yeah.
there's always every human ever forever, besides maybe a weird like Middle Ages where they kind of regressed for a couple hundred years, has lived at the peak of whatever we've made, right?
I just watched a video and it was from 1974-ish, 75.
Mm.
And it was a lady who was like 112 or 115
That's
years
crazy.
old.
Civil War.
Yeah. And they asked her, had she ever been on an airplane? And like, I mean, just first of all, she's, let's see, she was born in
1850.
1850 something.
Yeah. So she was a teenager for the Civil War.
She
That's
was,
crazy.
horse and buggy. I mean, this is crazy type,
Right.
and she talked about that. But the one thing that I noticed is like the way that she talked, she sounded so much smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
Like she's using proper English and
Right.
yeah, it was pretty impressive, but
Language
especially
is-
for that age.
Yeah, dude. Language has degraded a lot.
Yeah.
It's pretty pathetic actually. Like you even read like an older book, when I say older, I mean like 1950s,
Yeah.
like 70 years ago, 75 years ago, not that long ago. and they all sounded like 10 times better than our politicians sound doing a speech today.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. The Elizabethan English, even like back a couple hundred years ago, like they sounded like poets when they talked.
Yeah.
That's how everybody talked, you know.
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating. But I don't know. Do you want to call it on that today?
Yeah, I think we're probably good. I just, definitely there's a million cases for any listeners.
Right.
If you're interested in this topic, this is not kind of the norm, I guess, for us. I mean, we do talk about mostly crazy shit, but but if you went on YouTube and typed in NDE stories, you could entertain yourself for weeks. So there's plenty out there.
There's a million, and that's, I think, what makes it cool is that so many people have had them.
Yeah.
So there's a certain aspect of it that's just completely undeniable. Something is happening.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
The rub is, what is it?
Yeah, that, before we do cut this out, like that's something that's kind of always, I don't know, irritated, bothered, annoyed me when you have people, scientists or people who are very scientific thinking, and I understand you want proof for everything.
Right.
But we might not be advanced enough to
get the proof
or understand the proof or the evidence.
Right.
So the openness, goes a long ways, I think.
I feel the same way with UFOs.
Yeah.
Too. And like a lot of the cryptids, a lot of stuff, like it something is happening,
right,
clearly, and we just don't have the technology or the knowledge to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
But I think it's like very evident that there is a phenomenon happening.
Yep.
And that's fascinating in itself.
And the best part, I think the best stance to have is to be completely open to everything.
Right.
Because you just don't know.
Yeah, you can't. I try not to rule stuff out based on how crazy I think it is. Because 10 years ago, like, a lot of the stuff I thought was crazy has happened now.
Right.
Is no longer a conspiracy theory or no longer like the thing that the crazy people talk about. So.
But there's most people, they default to Occam's razor, you know, so rather than keeping an open mind, it's like, oh, well, it's got to be this.
Yeah, the human brain.
It's just not fun.
It's not. It's that you can only entertain so many things at once without going crazy.
Right.
I think the best people, the best thinkers, they ride that line really hard.
Yeah.
And your average everyday citizen does not. They just shut it out.
Right.
And they live their life. And that's cool. I get it. But I like to look for more. Try to.
All right, guys. Well, send us some ideas if you want to see us talk about anything. But that'll do it for us for the week.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. I do want to say we do have, if you can, it would be awesome if you guys would like and subscribe on whatever you're listening on. I am working on getting some socials together, so I did make an X account. We're not really like active on there yet, but once I get that all the way up and going, I'll make sure I put the link under there, and we'll start posting some stuff too about when we're going to release episodes and stuff like that.
I think our next one, we're going to have our boy Zach back on, I think. Right?
Yes, yep. That's at least that's the way it sounds now. And depending on when we do that one, we might have one more with me and you, depending on how far out we are. And we got to line up all our work schedules and stuff. But he'll for sure be back on in the next week or two. So,
all right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
A band of shadows is a heavy weight to bear.